The unanswered questions and fears of more dead, spurring firefighters and growing numbers of volunteers to dig through the remains of homes. Authorities say more than 700 are left homeless.
The unanswered questions and fears of more dead, spurring firefighters and growing numbers of volunteers to dig through the remains of homes. Authorities say more than 700 are left homeless. Great job. Amazing. I guess this was part of EVC that probably helped. This is a genius question. I love this question. That was Luciana. Thank you for that question. So the unanswered questions and fears of more dead. All of that spurring firefighters and growing numbers of volunteers to dig through the remains of homes. Okay, does that, I hope the sentence shouldn't be too bad. Let's go ahead and listen here.
The unanswered questions and fears of more dead. The unanswered questions and fears of more dead. The unanswered questions and fears of more dead, spurring fire.
What does this exactly mean? Yeah, so the words themselves don't actually say what she is implying, because let's be honest, if we know everyone is dead, then that's not going to spur. Okay, so think about that just a little bit there. That's that. I kind of gave you the answer, but just think about that a little bit.
The unanswered.
See if you can maybe fix her sentence so that it makes more sense.
The unanswered questions and fears of more dead, spurring firefighters and the unanswered questions and fears of more dead, spurring fire.
Notice how she finishes perfect pronunciation. Dead. Fears of more dead. Spurring firefighters. Spurring firefighters.
The unanswered questions and fears of more dead, spurring firefighters and growing numbers of volunteers to spurring firefighters and growing numbers of volunteers to numbers of volunteers to numbers of volunteers to.
Oh, check this out. Right here.
Numbers of volunteers to numbers of volunteers to numbers of volunteers to numbers of volunteers to numbers of volunteers to.
Same? Yeah, they certainly could be. Numbers, so let me grab different numbers of volunteers. Numbers of volunteers. Yeah, they absolutely could sound the same. Could sound the same. If we kept the intonation the same, yep, they sound the same. However, yeah, there's always a caveat, right? So the first one is numbers of volunteers. Numbers of volunteers. Numbers of volunteers. And this one, it would be numbers of all, and we're going to really stretch it. So, I don't want to help. Get out of here. Help. Numbers of all in tears. It's going to be like that. I just made it just. What the hell did I do? It's a magic pen. Oh, my God. We don't want magic pen. There we go. So numbers of volunteers. Numbers of volunteers. Numbers of volunteers. Numbers of all in tears. We'd really stress this, and we'd keep that A pretty clean. Numbers of all in tears. Of all in tears. Numbers of volunteers. Oh, boy, they're really similar. I'm trying to. So I think the only real distinction would be right here. This is definitely a vol, and this is probably going to be stressed, so it's going to be a cleaner all, okay? But that's really a tiny difference, right? Grammatically, growing numbers of volunteers, growing numbers of volunteers. Grammatically, the of is weird. Of all in tears. The growing numbers all in tears. That's good. Growing numbers all in tears. Everybody all in tears. That would really make sense. So grammatically, probably there would be no of if we wanted to say this. But otherwise, the pronunciation-wise and the intonation is basically the same. There'd be a little more clarity on the aw. It'd be cleaner, whereas here it's va. However, the faster we say it, they could really sound the same. So I love that question. That was really a great question. And yeah, it works because everybody's in tears, of course, right? What a horrible thing. So anyway, that was a very good question. And the answer, of course, as you knew, too, numbers of volunteers to dig through the remains of homes.
Numbers of volunteers, numbers of volunteers, numbers of volunteers.
You can really hear that vol. You can really hear that vol, right? I hope you can.
Numbers of volunteers to dig through the remains of homes. Authorities say more than...
Yeah, so this is a tricky one. Authorities say what the wrong answer was. Authorities say. No. Authorities say. And I've talked about this rule. So here's another question. I need to give you guys more questions. What's the rule? Why did some people not catch this S? What happened? Why did some people not catch that S? Authorities say more than 700 are left homeless.
Numbers of volunteers to dig through the remains of homes. Authorities say more than 700 are left homeless. Authorities say more than 700 are left homeless.
2 times. The unanswered questions and fears of more dead. And I asked you, this is a little wrong. I think we all understand what it means. But the unanswered questions and the fear, if they don't hurry, more people will die. So we're kind of missing an if situation here. Spurring firefighters. Okay, firefighters and growing numbers of volunteers are highly motivated, are very encouraged, like a spur, like a cowboy kicking a horse to do more. The unanswered questions and the fear that if they don't work now, more people could die. If they don't work now, they will find more people dead. They need to find people while they're still alive, spurring firefighters and growing numbers of volunteers to dig through the remains of homes. Authorities say, and I think it was Rosewood gave me the 2080 rule. Yeah, these are similar sounds, so they link together. And this generally, we want to say 20% S, Z, and 80% S. So authorities say a little bit of Z, a lot more S, right? Here's the Z sound. But this can go from 2080 to 199. So it can kind of disappear. It doesn't disappear, but it can really, the focus can go here. Authorities say. So there is a Z there. I'm saying a Z, but we really hear the S. Okay, so that's confusing. Authorities say more than 700 are left homeless.
The unanswered questions and fears of more dead, spurring firefighters and growing numbers of volunteers to dig through the remains of homes. Authorities say more than 700 are left homeless. The unanswered questions and fears of more dead, spurring firefighters and growing numbers of volunteers to dig through the remains of homes. Authorities say more than 700 are left homeless.